Hey guys, I'm Law, and this is part 3 of What If Asta, Yuno and Noelle Were in My Hero Academia. I hate long intros, so let's begin. The three mages took a train heading towards Asta's apartment. No words were exchanged between themselves during the train ride. They all gave each other quick glances while thinking to themselves what the others have been through ever since they arrived into this magicless world. After riding the train for 10 minutes, they arrive at the stop that was close to the anti-magic boy's apartment. "Come on guys, it's this way," Asta said, walking up ahead with Yuno and Noelle following behind him. The three mages continued walking for the next 7 minutes, not really saying anything until they finally arrived at an apartment building. They walked into the building and took the stairs to the second floor of the building. They made their way to the hallway and Asta walked to the door that was the entrance to his home with the two following him. "Well, this is where I live," Asta said as he opened the door to reveal a one-bedroom apartment. Both the wind and water mage were greeted with the sight of a normal living room connected to the kitchen. They also noticed some workout equipment such as dumbbells, resistance bands and iron plates neatly placed against the wall. "Home sweet home," Asta said with a large smile as the three teenagers went to the living room. "So you guys want some soda to drink?" Asta asked. "Sure, I don't mind," Noelle and Yuno would reply. Asta nodded and went to the kitchen to get the cola from the fridge. Noelle took a seat on the red couch while Yuno sat on a chair beside the couch. "This is a nice place you got, Asta," Noelle said as Asta came out of the kitchen holding a tray with 3 cups and a bottle of cola. "Hee thanks, although it's not much if I'm being honest," Asta said with a chuckle as he passed the cups and cola to the two mages. "It's a simple and cozy apartment, nothing wrong with that," Yuno chimed in as he poured some cola in his cup with Noelle and Asta following in suit. The three mages took sips of their drinks and sat in comfortable silence. No one said anything for a couple as they didn't know where to start and who should go first. The silence was broken when Asta spoke after taking a few gulps from his cup. "If you guys don't mind, I'll go first and tell you guys what happened after our fight with Lucifero," Asta said with the two mages nodding and gesturing for him to go. Asta began his story that after their fight with Lucifero he woke up in a hospital. He told them that the damage done to him was so severe that he was in a coma for 2 weeks, that once he woke up he could tell something was not only off with the building he was in but the people that were also taking care of was way weaker than what he was previously capable of, because despite the fact that he had his grimoire he was missing his demon destroyer and slasher sword, and the fact that the damage he received from Lucifero heavily weakened his body. He figured that he was in a different world after getting enough info about his current predicament. After he was released from the hospital he and Liba spent a couple of days trying to find Yuno and Noelle or any way to get back home but didn't have any leads. Over the next couple of weeks Asta accepted this new world as his life and decided that he would become a hero. When Asta was done with his story, Noelle and Yuno began to tell their own story. It was relatively similar to Asta's story, however the difference was that both Noelle and Yuno didn't have their grimoires when they were found. It was also made apparent that they were all significantly weaker than what they originally were ever since their fight against Lucifero. ***, so I guess we've all be living in the same way somewhat, Noelle said with a sign, with the two boys agreeing. "Plus we have no idea how we got here or any possible way of getting back," Yuno said, finishing his cup of cola. The room remained silent for a couple of seconds after Yuno said that, fully realizing they would most likely be stuck in this world forever. That is, until Asta finally spoke. "Hey, at least I'm stuck here with you guys." Noelle and Yuno looked at Asta for a short couple of seconds until they smiled and nodded at what Asta was saying. "Yeah, I guess it could have been worse," Noelle said. "You make it sound as if it's a good thing that I'm stuck with you," Asta, Yuno mockingly said to the ash-blonde-haired boy. "What did you say, you jerk?" Asta yelled in annoyance, which only increased as Yuno gave him a smirk. "Seriously guys, you?" Noelle said to the two rivals, although she was already used to their antics. Noelle looked out the window with a look of deep thought. She had been in this world for a year and has grown quite fond of it. She was also curious what her two companions thought of this world. "You guys, we've lived in this world for a year now, what exactly do you think of it?" Noelle asked the two teenage boys. Yuno and Asta had thoughtful expressions on their faces before they answered. I really like this world, Yuno would simply say. Yeah, this world is awesome. There's just so much to do and discover. Asta said in excitement, it almost kind of makes you wonder that if our world didn't have magic, would humans begin to adapt and develop technology like this world? Both Yuno and Noelle both pondered on what Asta said and had different thoughts on what their original society could look like if their world didn't have magic. I guess that is an interesting thought, Noelle would say as she finished her own cup of cola. Yuno looked outside to see that the sun was setting. He checked the time on his phone to see it was 5:21 p.m., signaling it was time for him to head home. Guess I should be going, it's already past 5 p.m., Yuno said as he stood up from the chair to collect his school bag. Wow, time sure flies. I also have to head home as well, Noelle said as she too stood up from the couch and collected her school bag. Sure, I'll walk with you guys to the station, Asta said as the three mages all went to the door and walked out of the apartment and made their way to the train station. After a couple of minutes walking, the three mages made it to the train station, and luckily for Yuno, his train had just arrived. I'll see you guys later, Yuno said as he walked inside the train with the vehicle moving off the moment he sat down. Asta and Noelle were now left alone in the station waiting for Noelle's train, which was said to arrive in 5 minutes. There was some awkward silence in the air as now that the two mages were alone together, they didn't know what to say after a long time of being separated, or should they just stay silent and wait until Noelle's train comes. We're alone, after 1 year of not seeing each other, it's just me and Asta. Noelle thought to herself as she looked at Asta, who didn't notice her looking at him with a small blush on her face. He seemed to be thinking about something as she just continued to stare off into space. What exactly do I say to him after so long? Is it appropriate to tell him how I feel? Is now the right time? What if I never get another chance? What if he doesn't feel the same way? Noelle thought were abruptly interrupted when Asta called her name. Hey Noelle. What, MYS Asta, Noelle stuttered out, blushing as she tried to get herself composed when Asta called her name. You good? Asta asked the water mage, giving her a confused look. Why, yes, I'm fine. Do you need something? Noelle said as she got herself under control. Well, I've just been thinking about everything that's happened up until this point. From the fight we had with Lucifero, us entered this other world, and the possibility of us finding a way to go home to now try to become heroes. Asta said as looked off to the distance with Noelle staring at him. What I'm trying to say is that, I'm glad that you guys are here with me. We've been away for so long, so I want to spend as much time together with you with all the free time I have, Asta said with an enthusiastic grin on his face. Noelle looked at Asta with an understanding expression. She knew how Asta felt, and even if she didn't want to admit, she wanted to spend as much time with her friends from her old home, although she specifically wanted to spend that time with just her and Asta. Would that also include spending time where it's just us? Noelle softly asked the anti-magic boy with a small blush on her face. When Asta heard this, he surprisingly had a blush on his own face as well, to which he didn't understand. Well, yeah, there are gonna be times where it's just the two of us, Asta said as he was shyly scratching the back of his hair. Noelle, upon hearing this, beaming in happiness, but did her best not to let it show on her face. That sounds nice, Noelle said. Yeah, alright, that reminds me, I forgot to exchange all our phone numbers. Oh well, I'll just ask Yuno for his tomorrow, Asta said as he pulled out his phone. So what's your number, Noelle? It's 075XXXXXXX. I'll also make sure to text you my address in case anything happens, Noelle told Asta. Sounds good, Asta told her. He also gave Noelle his own phone number. Man, I can't wait to know what we're gonna do tomorrow, Asta exclaimed with a smile on his face. Shut up, Asta, you're too loud, Noelle told the anti-magic boy. But I do have to admit, I wonder what kind of activities we'll be doing first, told the water mage. Noelle's train soon arrived and Noelle was about to walk to the train, but her next action surprised the young anti-magic boy. Noelle gave him a big heart-warming hug. Asta was so surprised that he didn't know what to think. Noelle wasn't really the affectionate type, but Asta still accepted the hug nonetheless. The hug only lasted for a couple of seconds, with Noelle pulling from the hug first. "I'll see you later," Asta, Noelle said with a warm smile on her face that had a noticeable blush as she then walked to her train and entered the vehicle. Asta stood there in a daze as the train moved on to its next location. The boy had a familiar tight feeling in his chest when he thought of Sister Lily, but it was a lot stronger now when he thought of Noelle. Asta left the train station reminiscing about the hug and smile Noelle gave him. Wow, was Noelle always that pretty? Asta would think to himself as he made his way back to his apartment. Next day. It was the next day in UA High, and for the most part the three mages had been doing things that they regularly did in middle school, such as answering attendance, taking notes, getting to know some of the other students, and going to lunch. It wasn't until afternoon that they would actually start the class they were eager for, known as the Foundational Heroic Studies. "I am here, coming through the door like a normal person," came the booming voice of the number one hero in Japan known as All Might, as he marched into the class of 1A. "No way, it's All Might. That's his Silver Age costume. I can't believe All Might is teaching our class." The excited voices of the various students came as the number one hero was going to be teaching their class. "So this is the number one hero, All Might. He looks pretty tough and his ki almost feels similar to that Izuku kid. Maybe they are related somehow," Asta thought to himself as he continued to observe the number one hero in Japan. He wasn't the only one, as both Noelle and Yuno also had similar thoughts to All Might's strength. "Haha, settle down students, we'll now begin the Foundational Heroic Study lesson," All Might said at the back of the podium in front of the class. "And to start we'll be doing a trial battle." All Might then pressed a button from a remote he was holding, and a bunch of stacked suitcases that numbers on each of them would slowly emerge from the wall. "These are your hero suits you'll be using in trial battle. Everyone get change and meet me at ground beta. And remember, boys and girls, you're all training to be heroes now, so show me what you got," All Might boomed out, earning some excited cheers from a few of the students. 20 minutes later. Most of the students would walk out from the changing rooms and head to the entrance of ground beta to meet the number one hero. "Wow, that is a very interesting custom, Yuno. It looks more like a military uniform for royalty," Achiko told the young wind mage. True to what Achiko was saying, Yuno was wearing his Golden Dawn uniform. It consisted of white pants, a white shirt with a thick red line down the middle. He also had a blue robe that not only had the color gold on it but also the golden symbol on the front. And the last thing he had on were long black leather combat boots. "Thank you," Yuno simply responded. "Hell yeah, let's get this show on the road," came the booming voice of the anti-magic mage as he walked in to meet Yuno, Achiko, Mina, Kirishima, and Izuku. Asta was currently shirtless and wearing the same attire he had after finishing the 6 months training in the Heart Kingdom. He also made sure to have a new strap to hold his grimoire by his waist. "Shut up, Asta, you're being too loud," Noelle chastised the anti-magic mage as she followed behind him. Noelle was wearing a costume that looked very similar to her Valkyrie armor. The armor was light blue in color and she also had her own tiara. The only difference is that unlike her actual Valkyrie armor, she wasn't holding a lance made of water. "Gotta admit, Noelle, you kinda look like royalty with that outfit," Mina complimented the silver-haired girl. "Kinda look like royalty, bitch, I am royalty," Noelle would jokingly say in a snobbish tone, earning a small giggle from Mina. All the students would finally arrive and meet All Might in the monitor room of ground beta. They all settled down once All Might began speaking. "Well, students, now that you're all here, I'll explain what this trial battle is. The trial battle is one that will be done indoors. Contrary to popular belief, most villain activity is done indoors. This battle is to show mechanics of how heroes and villains operate when battling indoors. That is why this trial would consist of 2 groups. One the heroes and the other the villains, those groups having 2 people in them. You students will randomly be paired up with a partner and pick a ball with a letter from these boxes. The letters I call out will determine which will be facing off against. Now, for the actual test. There is a fake bomb inside the building that is guarded by the villain group. In order to pass the test, the villain group has to protect the bomb by either incapacitating the heroes or by stopping the heroes until the 10-minute timer is up. All Might explained. Most of the students nodded, but there were a few questions they asked to which All Might answer accordingly. Once the questions were answered, the young hero trainees were paired and walked to the boxes and picked out a ball with a letter. Also, considering there is an odd number of students, another pair will have to fight twice. Any volunteers? All Might asked as several students raised their hands up. The 4 students All Might picked to go twice were Asta, Kirishima, Ida, and Momo. Izuku and Achiko, A. Bakugo and Ida, D. Yuno and Toru, I. Asta and Sato, F. Kirishima and Shiro, J. Noelle and Yaoyorozu. Todoroki and Mizo, B. Now the first battle will begin between Team A, heroes, and Team D, villains. Make sure to give it your all and go plus ultra. All Might exclaimed out as the battle of the two teams began. /N, it's essentially the same as in canon, so no point in going over it again. And the hero team wins. All Might yelled out. Achiko, Ida and Bakugo walked back to the monitor to hear how they did. Izuku had to be taken to Recovery Girl to get his injuries treated. That was an interesting battle. I can see you all performed to the best of your abilities. That being said, the real MVP of this whole exercise is young Ida, All Might declared, earning surprised looks from many of the other students. But didn't Midoriya and Uraraka win the battle? Suyu would ask in a confused tone. That is right, but there is a reason why Ida is the MVP of the match. Does anyone know the reasons why? All Might asked the students. No one said anything until Momo raised her hand and explained the incorrect decisions made by Izuku, Achiko and Bakugo while praising Ida's decision for actually properly guarding the bomb. Her explanation was so thorough that it left both All Might and the students a bit dumbfounded. Well, now that Team A and Team D are done, let's move on to the next battle. The number 1 hero said. Team I and Team B, you two are up with Team I the villains and Team B the heroes. All Might announced as both teams walked to the fake building, not before Shoto gave Yuno an odd look. Yuno and Toru went inside the building and had 10 minutes to find a suitable spot to where they would be protecting their bomb. They chose the 3rd floor and began strategizing on how they will handle the situation. Hey Hagakure, when we start, let's stick together and have the both of them come at us. Yuno suggested. How come? Well, I'm pretty confident I have the power, speed and mobility advantage to take on that Todoroki guy. The remaining obstacle is to deal with the one that can multiply his limbs. Yuno told the invisible girl. Well, with my invisibility, I'm pretty sure I can sneak up to him and knock him out? Toru told the boy in a cheerful yet confident tone. Yuno thought about it for a second about what the invisible girl said. Realistically, Yuno was confident he could take out both of them with complete ease, but considering this was a team exercise, he wanted to make sure Hagakure also participated in it. Well, considering we're gonna be close together fighting, if she does struggle I can help her, though I would need to finish my battle with that Todoroki guy as soon as possible, Yuno thought to himself. Okay, we'll go with that plan, although be careful with him. It seemed that he can also multiply his eyes and ears, so he could potentially hear you sneaking up on him if his senses are that good, Yuno told the invisible girl. No problem, she responded in a cheerful voice. After a couple of minutes of waiting, All Might would give the signal from the microphone, allowing the hero team to enter the building. Shoji was the first one to react as he sprouted ears from his body and began listening for the location of Yuno and Toru. I hear them, they're both on the 3rd floor on the north side. We should proceed with caution. Shoji told the ice user as he continued walking forward. Todoroki for his part didn't think too much of what Yuno and Toru were planning as he intended on ending the match quickly. Stand back, it's about to get real frosty in here. Todoroki said as he placed his hand on the wall and ice began to spread across the building. With Team I. Just within a few seconds of the battle beginning, Yuno could already tell something was off as he noticed the sudden drop in temperature in the air. Before Hagakure could react, Yuno lifted both her and himself up in the ground with his wind magic. Then immediately the room and the entire building was encased in ice. What the hell? Toru exclaimed in shock as she was caught off guard that she was suddenly floating off the ground and the room was suddenly covered in ice. Seems that they wanted to end this quickly by freezing us in place so we couldn't move to defend ourselves, Yuno said, looking down at the layer of ice on the floor. Yuno used his wind to gently hover down both him and Toru on the floor. Achoo, it's freezing in here, Hagakure complained as her body was trembling from the cold. Although what was she expecting considering she wasn't wearing any clothes? Yuno, not wanting to let his teammate endure the cold, took off the robe of his uniform and handed it to Toru. Here, I have a new idea. I'll go down to deal with Todoroki and the other guy. You'll guard the bomb, but if I'm struggling I'll make a retreat and come back here so we can take them on together, Yuno told the invisible girl. Toru thought about it for a second and agreed to the plan. Okay, then be careful though, she said to the raven-haired boy. Yuno nodded and moved out of the room to look for Team B. With Team B, they were able to avoid the ice. I can hear some footsteps moving around the upper floor, Shoji told Todoroki. Todoroki was a little bit surprised that his opponents were able to dodge his ice but didn't let it get to him. Wait, I don't hear footsteps anymore, it sounds like a violent wind and it's coming down the building at high speed, Shoji said, confused at the current development. In the monitoring room. Whoa, cool. He can use his quirk to also levitate through the air, Kaminari exclaimed in complete awe. Yeah, and look at how fast he's going, Jairu also added as she was watching Yuno zoom through the building. It's also awesome that Todoroki was able to freeze the entire building in seconds. If Yuno and Hagakure had got caught in that, it would have been very detrimental to them, Ida mentioned, impressed by both of the teams. I expect nothing less from Yuno, Asta would say with a large smile on his face, causing some of the students to look at him for a second until they resumed back to the screen. But Kogo looked at the screen with an angry expression on his face and had his grit in what seemed to be frustration. Back with Team I. As Yuno was making his way down the building, he decided to slow down while keeping contact with Hagakure and stay on guard to prepare for an attack. As Yuno finally made his way to the first floor, he made a turn to the exit, but then a large stream of ice was coming in his direction. Yuno reacted quickly and dodged the ice easily, dispersing his wind platform and landing on the ground. He was met with Todoroki and Shoji standing a few feet in front of him, both ready to fight. So much for a surprise attack, Shoji muttered under his breath. Todoroki then shot out another glacier of ice from his foot heading towards Yuno, fully intent on stopping him in his tracks. Yuno shot two small tornadoes from his hands towards the ice, shattering the glacier in the process. This caused Todoroki and Shoji to seal themselves as the heavy gust of wind shot small piece of ice towards them. Yuno wasn't done though, as he shot a gust of wind towards Shoji, but it was blocked by a shield of Todoroki's ice. Yuno took this chance to get closer to the two. Yuno used both his wind magic and some reinforcement magic to step in front of Todoroki at such speeds the ice user would barely have any time to react. Yuno had a ball of compressed wind in his hand heading towards Todoroki's face, fully intent on knocking out Todoroki as quickly as possible. From Todoroki's perspective, it looked like the world was moving in slow motion as the ball of air made his way towards his face. Todoroki had no idea what to do, as there was no way he could dodge the attack in front of him, nor could he freeze him. He then acted on instinct and moved his left arm in front of his face, but unbeknownst to him he unconsciously let out his fire. Asterisk boom asterisk was the sound that came from an explosion when Yuno's wind and Todoroki's fire collided. The explosion caused both combatants to fly back, including Shoji. Yuno quickly recovered from the blast but noticed that the palm of his hand had some burns on it. So he can also use fire, huh? Yuno thought to himself as he was the two starting to recover from the explosion. Yuno sent a wind slash to Shoji as he was the closest of the two. The attack was too fast for Shoji and he was knocked out cold when the attack hit him. Todoroki, seeing this, gave an annoyed look to the wind mage and sent pillars of ice toward Yuno. Yuno didn't look fazed by this and swiftly dodged the pillars of ice. The way he moved looked like he was performing some kind of dance. Todoroki continued to send more ice towards Yuno, but the wind mage continued to dodge effortlessly. The ice user was getting frustrated that he couldn't land a hit, so he changed tactics and used his ice to propel himself forward insanely fast to get at least just one touch on him so Yuno can be cased in ice. Yuno still had a calm look on his face and planned to do a counterattack. When Todoroki got closer, he was releasing frost from his arm and trying to touch Yuno. Todoroki's fingers were mere inches away from Yuno with the frost on his tips moving forward. It looked as if Todoroki was about to win. "It's over," the ice user thought to himself. Whoosh! Bam! Before the frost could touch Yuno, a strong tornado was shot up from ground right below Todoroki. The tornado shot Todoroki up into the ceiling, making him hit the ceiling and knocking the ice user out cold, /n, pun not intended. Yuno used his wind magic to catch Todoroki and gently set him down next to Shoji. And villain team wins. All Might boomed in the microphone as both Todoroki and Shoji were taken to Recovery Girl, with Yuno and Hagakure going back to the monitoring room. In monitor room. "Oi Yuno, you were great out there," Asta said in a cheerful voice as both Yuno and Hagakure entered the room. "Yeah Yuno, I've never seen you use your quirk like that before," Uraraka added. "Thanks, although I apologize if you felt left out," Hagakure, Yuno said, turning to the invisible girl. Hagakure frantically shook her hands, saying it was alright, as she knew she wouldn't really be able to help Yuno take on the both of them. Yuno nodded at this and walked to other students, waiting for All Might to grade them. "That was a great performance, young Yuno and Hagakure. You two played your roles quite well, but can anyone tell me who the MVP of this challenge was?" All Might asked the group of students. The first person to respond to that question was Suyu Azui. "Was it Yuno?" the frog girl asked with her usual blank expression. "Ha, that is correct, young Azui. Yuno would be declared the MVP. Now can anyone tell me why that is?" All Might masked, still smiling at the students. Well, from what we observed, it seemed like Yuno and Hagakure planned on staying in the room to hide out until their opponents arrived. When Todoroki freezed the building, they had to change their tactics, with Hagakure guarding the bomb and Yuno slowing down or just stopping the opponents altogether. Despite the good teamwork Shoji and Todoroki showed when trying to attack Yuno off guard, Yuno remained composed and made a successful counterattack to both of them without causing any severe injuries and little to no collateral damage in the building. Ida said in a very analytical manner, with some turning at him with amazed looks in their eyes. "Haha, that is very good observation, young Ida, and yes, that is the reason," All Might said. "Let's not waste any more time and move on to the next battle, which is Team F, Asta and Sato, versus Team C, Noelle and Momo. Team F being the hero team and Team C being the villain team." All Might told the students. "Hell yeah! Did you hear that Noelle were facing off against each other?" Asta yelled in excitement. "I can see that, Buck." Asta Noelle groaned in some annoyance at the anti-magic boy's antics. Though she was both nervous and a bit excited to fight her crush, as she could not wait to show off how far she had come. And that's going to be it for this part. Hope you enjoyed the video, and please be sure to comment what other Black Clover what ifs you would like to see. Anyways, this Law and I am signing off.